Good evening, everyone. I'll call our Roundtable Council meeting to order at 6 p.m. here in the House. Roll call, please.
Alderperson Silas.
Present.
Macias.
Present.
Razak.
Present.
Timian.
Present.
Finch.
Present.
McNeil.
Present.
Castro. Schmidt.
Present.
All right. We have no remote electronic attendance, so we'll move to our Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which yes, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Do you believe we have public comment this evening? For sure, there's an email comment. Is there anyone in the public? Thank you. Okay.
Hello, everyone. My address is 5318 20th Avenue, Moline, Illinois. If you wish to contact me, I hope to review the issue of flock surveillance and spying capabilities. The current aerial drone cameras can read a vehicle's license plate up to 2,000 feet away. It would be feasible to assume in the future facial recognition would follow. I myself am not comfortable relying on a drone to be compliant with current Big Brother rules. Mr. Galt told us that Moline does not have aerial drones. I believe. However, that doesn't mean technology will not be shared with various police departments within the Quad City area, which Bettendorf currently has. This includes sheriff or area drones and state police drone programs. I know these issues sound repetitive, but I feel this is an important matter, as many other communities in the country have expressed. But when my grandkids interrupt me and ask, "But Grandpa, what did you do to try and stop it?" I won't have to hang down my head and cry like Tom Dooley. Thank you, Tom Key.
Thank you very much. Under questions on the agenda, I'm just going to take a second to allow Mr. Mathias to introduce one of our interns, our many interns from this summer.
Yes, we have quite a few in the different city buildings, but this is a special one because the mayor connected us with the Just City Mayoral's Fellowship out in Harvard, and so we have the privilege of going out there back in April to really meet with a number of the design professionals, and this is Milena Medica, who is one of the grad students out there in the urban planning program. So she's going to be working with us full time this summer virtually. She gets to come here. She's got $2,000 for travel, so that was all provided by the university. So she's here this week. You want to say anything about some of the things, I guess, that you're excited
tell them a
about?
little.
Like kind of what drives you?
Yeah, for sure. So thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be working in the same lane. And I got to meet Mayor and Chris. I was just so excited about the project that you were doing and the energy you had. So my background, I'm originally from New Jersey. My family's from the Caribbean, so we really care about building community and connecting and taking care of those people around us. And so I got into urban planning really kind of in a roundabout way. I went to community development mediation, thinking about how we can bring people together to have clear discussion about what we're doing in our communities. And then I was like, okay, urban planning is a way to be more clear about what we're building in our communities and how we can make sure people have access to high qualities of life. And yeah, so I'm just really excited to be here working in community, helping working in investing in people and making their visions for the future become real. So thank you so much. I look forward to meeting all of you.
Thank you. We're just really excited that she's here with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so we can move to our roundtable discussion topics for the night. The first one is Quad City's Open Network Information Session. Ms. Daly, Cecilia Daly, welcome.
Hi. I stand here.
Yeah, that works.
You'll have to forgive me if I don't understand how to use the clicker. So today I just want to talk to you a little bit about Quad City's Open Network. I know I've spoken in front of this council before, but we thought this would be a good opportunity to just learn more about Quad City's Open Network and what we provide of value to our community. So in particular today, we're talking about improved social determinants of health utilizing collaborative case management, which I know the city of Moline knows well, and as we just heard, is a huge initiative for this city. So we're appreciative of that. So we talk about the statement of the problem, right? So we always talk about the beginning. And so we know that when our health and human service partners face persons to begin with, we're facing people in fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. So often health and human service agencies are trying to see quick outcomes through trying to do transactional, build outcomes through transactional relationships. And we know that over time that simply isn't sustainable. We know that in order to affect somebody's life effectively and efficiently, that means that they need to have a trusted relationship with the person that they're interacting with, and that also requires sustainable resources in the community to make sure that those services are available for those when they need it, which then requires a strong collaborative social infrastructure. So we know that we can improve health and safety, early childhood outcomes, housing, all of those social determinants. We are really focused on building a social infrastructure that supports collaborative case management. So here I am. I'll start when we talk relationship, then that means that the persons that we are interfacing with, it is important that we not only learn what they're experiencing, the issue that they're experiencing, but also a little bit about them. So we approach them. So again, Cecilia Daly, Executive Director of the Quad Cities Open Network. I hold an MBA in finance from the great right here in the Quad Cities is where I graduated from. I am a experienced in community services and systems, negotiation, policy, and advocacy. I was one of the first in this area to work with the ACA when that was being implemented, making sure that persons got connected to health insurance when that was available. I also have experience in strategic alliance, early childhood, youth mentorship, and service navigation. Youth is at the core of what I do. I am a person of lived experience, so I grew up very poor. I'm a Black woman, and so I am no stranger to vulnerability. And it is why I chose to get into the work that I do, watching things at a micro level and a macro level of how social systems work encouraged me to do the work that I do. On a personal note, I just retired as a dance teacher after 32 years. My kids better tell you that I'm a great cook, as well as a painter. And I also serve in the Rock Island County as a court-appointed special advocate for children. So I work with this circuit court in ensuring that foster children are adequately supported in my sphere. Now I'd like to ask you a question. Can you tell me more? If I could go around the room, can you tell me why? If you'd rather travel to the.
I feel like I have to be ready with this answer on that. Is I would travel there simply because that's where our vision is, right? That all of our work is building upon the past to fulfill our potential. And to me, that I love to see. Okay.
Anyone else?
Well, it's hard to follow that up. That was spot on. Raise your hands if you agree with the mayor.
Oh my God.
So his house is up.
For me, past is full of darkness. Future is something that we can overcome for the past. So when we have to look back fast. Without past, we cannot build a future. Because when we look past, only we can think what we did, whether it was right or wrong, or what we should have done. On the basis of that, we can frame our future, and accordingly we can think.
Anyone else?
I'd go the past. It'd give me a chance to see how something worked, where something started compared to how it is now. And I think that's just an important role in here. Like, it feels like we're never going to get to the future. There's a look back opportunity.
Anyone else?
I'll go past just so I can ride the trolley in Moline. I want to ride that trolley. That's all.
So I asked this question. Just I ask many questions that seem arbitrary, but when someone answers this question for me and they tell me why, it gives me insight into the way that they think about things and how they move forward. So I use this question as a precursor to talk about the collaborative relationship and the way that we manage and why it's so important to get to know who you're talking to. So you can realize what's at stake for that person, how they think about the world, and then how you can potentially interface and solve the issue that they are facing. So what is the Quad Cities Open Network? The Quad Cities Open Network is a collaborative of collaboratives. And so we work in the Quad Cities area, the Quad Cities Metro, in the big six as they were, although we do have some other counties that kind of filter in or that we have partners who do work in those counties, and so we will serve those areas as well. But we work throughout the health and human service spectrum, and in particular, I've highlighted our major partners for the major work that we do. So on the health side of things, we are partners with Unity Health, Mercy One, Vera French Community Healthcare, Transitions, and the Health Department. We do that when we look at the community health needs assessment, data that is utilized to help inform those decisions. Data comes from the Quad Cities Open Network to do that. We also sit on stakeholder meetings, and when we talk about our information referral system, as I will in just a few minutes, we work with those health partners to ensure that information and referral is available not only through the health system, but then can be translated to the health and human service agencies that we work with. We do work with cities, as it were. We'll talk a little bit that this council used that QCon was instrumental. The partnership with the Davenport Library and the social worker, that is a QCon originated idea between myself and the former library director. The social worker who now exists on a part-time basis in the East Moline Public Library, that is also a QCon collaborative partnership. So that is us looking at a new pathway, a different pathway to get those services. And so we were able to partner with our partner Transitions Mental Health in order to fulfill. We also work with nearly every school district in this area, particularly with our supplemental emergency assistance program. And so ensuring that families and kiddos get what they need. So again, we are a constellation. So we envision Quad Cities Open Network in a macro or meso level. So we do not consider ourselves, it's not that we're not essential, we are essential to the health and human services, but we consider ourselves a part of the constellation that's required to make the health and human service system work. So each partner has their own role, and Quad Cities Open Network is the role of a macro or meso entity that is intended to work essentially not for profit to not for profit. So we're not going to interface with the public on a regular basis. That's simply not our role. Our role instead is to be a great partner to our other not-for-profit service organizations to ensure that we are able to see gaps in this community and then respond to initiatives appropriately. So our job is to build relationships for the not-for-profits in this area. So again, we are a backbone infrastructure. Again, not intended to do direct service work. We provide you with a free information and referral system. So that is bread and butter of what we do. It means that any partner who wishes to participate in the Quad Cities Open Network is able to make and receive referrals through all their partner agencies through our system, again, free of charge. They also can adapt. We know that Family Resources, SAL's Community Services, they are building to use Quad Cities Open Network actually as their internal referral system. Again, free of charge. It is a way for us to see what is happening in the community. People say, why? Like, why would you, what is the benefit? The benefit is the gaps. When we can see at a community level what services are being requested and how those needs are being met, then we can inform decisions where resources should be allocated, as well as initiatives that should be launched in the community. So that is the benefit that Quad Cities Open Network gets from providing that free information referral system to the health and service partners. We also hold a flexible pool of dollars, so that is our supplemental emergency assistance program, SEEP, which has been in this community for 33 years, and now is under the fiscal sponsorship of Quad Cities Open Network. That is something that was really important in our community that we did not want to see go away, so we took that under our wing, and I'll talk a little bit more about that when we talk about the regional housing plan and why that's so critical. But the reason why QCon board took the flexible pool of dollars in, again, is at a macro level, flexible dollars are only gaps in services. People only request the flexible dollars when the resources are not available in the community. So from a QCon perspective, when we hold the gap dollars, then we know what the gaps are. So data collection, research, and advocacy, that again sit on many different collaborative boards to do that work and then to share that work. But when we look at data collection and research, that then again is our guiding principle of how we should move forward in the community. I'm sure it comes by no surprise to you guys, is that housing is and mental health is where we should focus our time. So again, we serve on collaboratives. I sit on advisory committees and boards in the majority of the collaboratives that sit in the Quad Cities. Again, as a steering committee member, a leader in the community, choosing how we board on different regional plans throughout the health and human service sector. In particular, today, again, we'll talk a little bit about the housing side of things. So again, our role is to provide a strong collaborative social infrastructure so we can improve social determinants of health. We work at the meso and macro level with the Flex Fund, and we consistently looking to build trust. So when we look at the information referral system as a whole, we know that, again, I said at the beginning, QCon cannot possibly solve the world's problems. Like no entity can. And the information and referral system can't possibly be managed by one entity either. So we hold the information and referral system, but we implore and encourage champions in their sectors to facilitate the work that's being done at an information and referral level through in the area that they serve. So the system champions in this area are the All Our Kids Network. So every child holds the All Our Kids Network contract. And so if you are looking at information referral and it's happening through early childhood and you're like, wait a minute, QCon does that. QCon does do that, but it does it through every child. If you're looking through for the health systems, again, we're working with Unity Point Health as a system champion there. As we're walking into the housing realm, we are searching to see if that will be the housing cluster or if that will be the new champion who comes forth in the regional housing plan.
So can I pause there?
Sure.
So just to continue to connect dots with the council, what Cecilia is referring to in terms of the new champion, it's the Flush report and things run through the Community Foundation that I sent out today. So QCon is mentioned as like already in place to do a lot of, like as you were saying, the gap filling. And so that one of the recommendations is to use them more. But just keep that in mind, is that that's partly why I asked her to come today, because we have that report that's come out. They want to get moving on things too, and we have to be part of that regional conversation about resources.
So again, as my mayor said, it's infrastructure building, really. We know that when we are looking at different levels or different organizations that are working at a micro level, information referral, Flex Fund, one agency, I always say, in case management will never change. And that's a person needs assistance and that they are going to seek that assistance or somebody to support them through that work. So the resources might shift, the resources might change, the way that we implore and deploy those resources might change, but those two things are consistent. And so if those two things are consistent, then what should also be consistent is the manner they are able to make and receive referrals. If we have one standard system that is used across the community, then that never changes. Persons can access the system at any level, and that system is always streamlining the information, streamlining the referrals, and streamlining the data so we can move nimbly across changes. So again, we know that our community organizations, they tend to prefer an information or referral system that is closed loop. It looks like our IRIS system. It's able to move very quickly. We know that our health partners, that's not the way that they roll. They prefer something that builds into their EHR. And so again, as Mayor says, when we look at QCon and its availability to flex needs and to flex the system, and it can be used more effectively and more efficiently, we're talking about a system that is already in place, has information and referral as a possibility, that already uses data collection, and already connects people to services, already connects people to a flex fund. But when we look at it broadly, we can do that same piece no matter what initiative we are looking to serve. And that never changes. It's just flexed out for what the community needs at this time. And at this time, it is housing. So as we look at the regional plan, as Mayor said, is not the first conversation that we have had on this topic. We have been trying for 6 years now to build an infrastructure across the community that employs neutral access points. So we're looking at not just social workers, but navigators, a way across the community so that people could look and seek services. Always the same all the time, and then those neutral access points could quickly flip and get them to a case manager that was needed. And so we had been uber successful in moving in that direction as a big collaborative goal and trying to kind of solve all of the issues. What we have found more successful is to pick a pocket and to start there. So again, starting with the Silos Solutions program, or the Silos Solutions project that was built out of the Housing Cluster 5 years ago, then building upon the pledge report that's coming out, building upon the research, the housing research that John already has done. What we are looking to do now in this plan is to build stronger, a QCon that can respond more quickly and that can be accessible for more entry points. And again, in particular with strong housing partners at this time, and really looking for a big dollar amount for flex funds so that we can, the goal is to, when we're looking at the funneling, it's particularly in homeless services, we know that work is best done in the diversion side of things. So we first, before we can work on diverting, though, we need to get a handle on what's happening. And so the Quad-Cities Community Foundation is prepping to build out the infrastructure, utilizing the backbone of QCon to look at the eviction diversion piece, while simultaneously piloting out how to get persons off the street now. And then as we look at that sustainability, in 10 years, what does that look like? How do we get to a place where that system is a part of the natural system that doesn't have to go seek funding every year or every 2 years to be funded? We all know that it's needed. How do we work together to make that happen? So again, we know that no wrong door approach improves outcomes. So we know that establishing neutral access points is the way to do it. We know that having a flexible fund is the way to determine where the gaps in services lie. In is our hope, right? Like if we're in a grandiose world, we're hoping that what we see through these collaborative relationships, partnerships, building resources out, that eventually housing won't be the number one need. Instead, we will then shift the system to something else. But the system doesn't need to shift because the system is still doing the same thing it's been doing. It's just highlighting the need again for another partner or another set of partners to solve. If we are all staying in our lane and we are contributing collaboratively, then we can in fact make a difference together. So again, our work, what we typically see in the health and human service infrastructure is somebody sitting at the top in chaos. And they're trying to find a place to go and to see who is navigating that case. And the goal is to have mutual access points and to have collaborative case management so that that person sitting in the top who needs to access services can do so without staying in survival mode for too long. So it's allowing health and human services to do what they do best, which is work together to find resources, but again, pulling frankly the health and human services out of survival mode as well. So final thoughts again, creating a multi-tiered system is possible when you are flexible and put in the work to build trusted partnerships, and having an effective information referral system in Flex Fund is in fact foundational to ensuring aid. 2 quotes when we talk about past and future. It's funny how day to day nothing changes, but when you look back, everything is different. And again, the secret to getting ahead is
I feel like we should come back at the end of the presentation. Well, we do have other items, but I obviously want to give the council a chance to ask any questions. I particularly am happy that you were able to be here because Mr. Silas was not with us last year when you spoke and had a direct ask of us, which we recall we did not include money for a social worker at the library. Cecilia is not here with an ask because part of it coming out of the Clutch report is that the foundations, there are multiple foundations that could potentially be stepping up to take that lane, to fund that lane. Does that make sense? Which means then we can look at what other things need to be funded or what other approaches we can take. So I just wanted to make sure everybody heard all that. Are there other questions for? Oh, yeah.
Did you say that you work with VOW?
we do, yeah.
So do you also work with Resource Referral as well?
We do.
How has the social worker program been going?
So the new social, I'll go back. The Davenport social worker, the previous social worker served 8,000 people in 3 years. And people to incredible resources. We know that funding then went away, which was unfortunate because we have the proof point. We know it works. That new social worker actually just started a couple of weeks ago. And I actually have my first introduction next week with that social worker. So far, I'm assuming that it will go well. Again, we have a proof point to have what we know it works. As far as East Moline goes, that is also working beautifully. So what they are finding is that folks are coming in with unusual asks, things that they hadn't heard before. Because they're more comfortable coming to someone who they know that it's what they use as their official work. And I actually have a meeting next week with that social worker as well to look at potential partners that still might need to be involved.
Thank you. Anything further? Yes, Mr. Rubio?
So thanks for the presentation. So you said family resources and SAL are coming on board. Saw transitions at another, what was the other mental health agency?
So
Works with you?
So Unity Point works with us as we hear from all.
Another nonprofit.
You're French?
Yeah, so my question is that there's nonprofits working in that space. Why wouldn't they work with you, right? Because it's easy, and then you had most of the school districts, but not all,
Could you share like why?
Yeah, so the biggest, there's a couple of flags that flag for organizations when something like a heat pump comes on. A lot of it's sustainability, right? So we're a baby organization. We're in our 6th year. And so we haven't found our longevity yet. So the thought of switching to a formalized system scares them. What if the system goes away after they have been usually using it for 3 or 5 years and then the system goes away? Obviously, the caveat there is, well, if you're using it, it's much easier for us to make it sustainable. So that is one. And then what we often do too is because the system is so large, without having system champions that are going in and constantly massaging those relationships, we'll have staff turnover, staff change, whatever the case may be. And so then the system won't be utilized for a second until we get back into an agency. And so if that happens at an inopportune time, someone is trying to make a referral to that agency, then they may choose to go old school method with the phone.
That makes sense.
Anything further? Thank you so much for joining
Yep.
us. We'll move to 7.2, Project Now Shelter Overview. Leah, is it Usa?
Got it. Okay, great.
Step to the podium.
Yes.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, city staff, and neighbors. My name is Project Now. It is a privilege to join you tonight to provide a final report on the Live Now Overflow Shelter operation. As we review this year's outcomes, I ask that we remember that every number represents a neighbor in our community. Many individuals we serve will not have the opportunity to share their stories in settings such as this, and I am grateful for the opportunity to put a voice to their needs and successes. So before discussing this year's outcomes, first I want to just give you a quick overview of the history of the Winter Overflow Shelter in the Quad Cities. So pre-2018, the Winter Overflow Shelter was operated by King's Harvest Davenport, Iowa. They served approximately 60 to 80 individuals per night, with serving 400 deduplicated individuals in a 2-year period. In 2018, it was announced that they would be closing, and in Davenport took over the winter shelter by expanding their capacity during winter months from 88 to 130. So in their first year, or in 2023 to 2024, they served 144 extra individuals. So that would be on top of who they had been serving in shelter during normal operations. In 2024, December of 2024, it became apparent that there would not be an expanded capacity outlet. So Project Now, we decided that we were going to try and take this on, and we had just moved from our administrative building at 418 19th Street in Rock Island, and so we very quickly converted it into an emergency shelter. We had a max occupancy of 37 people per night, and the outcomes from that shelter were that 13 individuals were permanently housed. Then in October 2025, there was some ordinances passed, and that made our building at 418 19th Street not a viable option for the next winter. So with the City of Moline's help, Project Now opened the Live Now Center on January 21st of 2026 in the Bridgepoint 485 building. Due to space, we were only able to house single men and women. These were put into hotels, and we partnered with Salvation Army and their family services to connect those families to services and permanent During the 4 months, just under 4 months that we operated, we provided 4,182 shelter nights. Our max capacity was 60 individuals, 35 men, 15 women. We saw 302 deduplicated individuals. And the average stay for a shelter guest was 14 nights. I think we had one person that stayed every single night. We served 219 males, 82 females. Next, we'll look at who we serve. So the data from this year's shelter shows that people are experiencing homelessness at all stages of life. I know it's kind of hard to read, but our youngest guest was 2 months old. Our oldest was 81. The largest group being the middle age, 34 to 55. Many of the individuals that came through the shelter were also facing significant challenges. As you can see, there are 42% reported to us that they suffered from a mental health condition, 20% chronic health condition, 20% substance use. And being unsheltered often makes these conditions considerably worse. It's very hard to maintain treatments and medication and appointments when you don't have stability and a safe place to sleep each night. And as you can see, we also had a significant number, a little over 1/3 of individuals that had experienced domestic violence, trafficking, dating violence, stalking, and sexual assault. So homelessness in itself is a very complex issue. It's not just economic hardship. A lot of times there's many barriers that a person will face that leads to an experience of homelessness. Okay. So one of the big questions that's been around is, where do people come from? Where are people coming from? And so this year, we tried to be very intentional with the data that we collected. We really wanted to get data that was relevant and that showed what all of the service providers in housing knew, but needed the data to back it up. So we started asking individuals on their first night at the shelter, where did you sleep last night? Specifically, which city and which state? And so we can see here, 34% had slept in Iowa the night before, 66% had slept in Illinois. And so that kind of confirmed what, like I said, service providers knew, is that this was not a city issue or a specific city issue. This is a issue. When individuals are trying to get their needs met, the bridges just serve as a link, not a boundary. So we had been seeing that for a long time, but it was nice to finally see that, oh yes, our data does show that. And that individuals, they're just trying to get their needs met and get to a safe place for the night. So our first year hosting the emergency shelter, one of the things that we learned is that the overflow shelter was not just a response, an emergency response to cold weather. It was a critical entry point for individuals experiencing homelessness. When folks are experiencing homelessness, keeping appointments, consistency is very difficult. So a lot of times our street outreach workers and our caseworkers have a very difficult time connecting with them and getting them to the services that they need. So having a safe place for them to sleep also gave us access. And with that access, we decided we wanted to do some barrier reduction initiatives. We gave monthly bus passes to every single individual to the shelter. So this is a huge, huge, huge advantage for people. If you have transportation, you can take care of the things that otherwise you wouldn't be able to. One of the stories I like to tell people that when I first started working at Project Now surprised me was for an individual to get a ID. They had to get first to our office, hope that a caseworker was available. They might have to wait a little bit. They receive a piece of paper, and we sign it and certify it as that they are experiencing homelessness. They take it to the DMV and they get a free ID. The bus trip from Project Now to the DMV generally could be almost 2 hours. So by the time you've completed all that, you've spent a considerable amount of time. But if you would have to walk, right, or rely on a friend or rely on Uber, that costs money. So we really wanted to provide people with transportation to complete the tasks that they needed to complete. Then we report to the third place. So when the emergency shelter closed on the weekdays at 7 a.m., we had Metrolink come and pick everybody up, transport them to the bus depot, and that made life a little easier for everybody instead of walking from Bridgepoint 485 all the way up to the bus depot. So especially when it's cold out, it's huge difference. We partnered with Robert Young to get on-site mental health care. Again, when you don't have a stable place, appointments are hard to keep, and as we know, a lot of us know that mental health treatments, you need to be consistent for them to work. So it was really important to us to get mental health care on site and reduce that area of transportation time. We offered rent and deposit assistance to any of the individuals who had income, had found a place, and were ready to move into permanent housing. Assistance obtaining vital records, so birth certificates, IDs, social security cards, all things that individuals need to move into housing, to secure a job, all those things that we kind of take for granted. And they get lost or stolen. And then connecting to benefit access. So most of us know that Illinois offers a free bus pass for individuals that are disabled or elderly. And so if they came in and we gave them one of our bus passes, and then we did some digging and found out, oh, you are old enough to get your free bus pass, then we would connect them with benefit access, and then they would have that for 2 years until they need to research. So this year, I'm proud to announce that 87 individuals who stayed in our shelter obtained permanent housing. And reminder, last year was 13. So we saw a huge increase in success. And this picture here is a gentleman that stayed at our actual picture of him opening his apartment door for the first time. And that's always a special moment to get to experience that, and the joy and the pride that you can just feel that they finally have someplace to call home. These outcomes would not be possible without help from the community and from our partners. We asked, and you all showed up. City of Moline, you helped us secure the building and have been a great help to us. The third place had care during the day for individuals that needed a safe place. Metrolink helped us with transportation. Salvation Army, we partnered with them for our families. Unity Point, Robert Young for our mental health care, and Christian Care provides free meals and free showers, which we did not have shower facilities at Bridgepoint 485. So that becomes a component of just keeping some for people to have dignity and just a place to wash up and feel better after that. So. And then here is some pictures from the shelter and the donations. We asked, like I said, people showed up. That's the picture on the right was the first day that we posted, we were open for donations. We were inundated and it was wonderful. In fact, it took us a few days to figure out where to even put everything, which is a good problem to have. We had businesses, churches, all kinds of people show up with anything that we put on Facebook and ask for. There's our flyer that we posted. We had people lining up at our doors, and so that is a critical component of this, is that we cannot do this work alone. It's a regional problem, and it takes a community and great partners to make it all work together. So it was great. And that is Dwayne there. He runs a kind of a street outreach program called Street Friends QC. So you may have heard them, but he would bring us blankets daily. So he kept all of our folks very warm. All right. Okay. So the need that brought the Project Now Lift Center into existence last winter, and especially this winter, has not gone away. As we look ahead to winter 2026 to 2027, finding a facility remains our greatest challenge. Some needs are a shower and bathroom facilities. We quickly realized that those are very important, and also things you didn't think about you think now, such as plumbing capacity, right? So when you have that many individuals staying in a same building, the building needs to be equipped for housing that many individuals. We'd love to have an outdoor space, and then something that complies with local city ordinances. Actively searching for a facility, and we take any and all referrals for that. We remain committed working with all of you, and we are a part of the Clutch conversation with Cecilia and the rest of the Quad Cities, and we look forward to continuing to housing in our area. So thank you again for the opportunity to share the impact of the Project Now Lift Center. This past winter, we both saw the growing need for an emergency shelter and the incredible outcomes that can happen when community partners work together. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Questions from the council?
I'm extremely happy.
Between last season and this season, there was a few circles between people who found permanent housing and didn't. What do you think to scale with that this year?
Sure. I think part of it was collaboration. I think it can't be understated how important it is to have daytime services as well. What we found in the first shelter was when people got housing, it was really exciting, but they were taken out of their community, right? And so they lost that connection. And Third Place has kind of bridged that gap for a lot of people. I know that many of the folks that we have housed they're still housed, but still go to the Third Place every day. So I think that more partners this time. So working together, to fulfill unique needs that come up. We did have a larger capacity, and I think that is part of it as well. Salvation Army helping us with the families was great. I think that's a huge part of it.
Great. Well, yes.
Well, I appreciate. I've seen cities where they have either street doctors or nurses, and shelters also have medical staff. I know that's so not just the appointments, but sometimes the needs that come up.
Sure.
And I'm sure that's stress on your staff. Is that something in partnership that, would that be a need or?
Oh,
are you-
absolutely. Absolutely. I think that we would welcome that. I think, just to be frank, when we're talking money, you know, that is an expensive need or expensive want. But that would be helpful because yes, the bottom line is are going to happen when you put 60 people in a building together, right? That are experiencing tremendous stress. They're in fight or flight. And so having medical staff on site would be a huge advantage. It would, to either handle that, to handle kind of the situations that arise, but also to, you know, kind of administer that mental health treatment throughout their stays. But also, one other thing is that Robert Young came on the weekends because we were only open from 8 p.m. to 7 a.m. So we were kind of in that emergency overflow. You're getting people right before bed and then right in the morning. And so it makes doing or providing service very difficult. And that's why we kept Robert Young to the weekends. But yes, I believe if you had, you know, if it was more of a permanent, ongoing operation, I think that would be incredibly helpful.
Yeah, and I'm also thinking about within that 42%, the percentage that have a serious mental illness. If they have episodes, how challenging that can be for your staff.
Yes.
Yes, it's part of what will need to be discussed closely with the current conversation in Rock Island County. That next meeting is next Thursday with administrators and mayors. I believe those are going very well.
They are.
But you know, all the number crunching will be important for solutions like that because like we're just getting numbers back from our own EMS costs in our own fire department, right? And that kind of solution to take back to the group to say, if everyone's paying for on-site medical, then that reduces the burden on the municipality where a shelter is located for those EMS services. And that's very important for us. So if a place is supporting a region, right, they shouldn't bear the complete brunt of all of the EMS calls in one city, which I think has probably been part of the problem for one city in the past is that they were footing that bill.
No, I think it's a significant expense, and I think if the mayor's correct, you know, the conversations are very much alive, better now than they've ever been in the last 5 years. You know, I think everyone at the table is not just thinking about what it's going to cost, but how we address the issue. So once we know how we address the issue, we can support how we address it with data, because data is going to drive budget, right? Just looking at your number, I mean, it's like 212,000 preliminarily.
Yes.
Our number is pretty close to that last year. So when you start to add all that together, I mean, it's $500,000 just on this side of the river, right? Not counting anything that was going on at the third place, anything that was going on in Christian Care, where they have two separate buildings. They've been doing this for over 100 years. So the question then becomes is the facility, how large is the facility? You know, who's going to run that facility? How do we get to the point where we know who's going to run that facility? So those are the kinds of conversations that are going on. I'm hopeful that we can have an answer.
Yeah.
We don't want to do this again. This was like, you know, to your credit, project. Now you guys stepped up. Nobody else would. The city of Moline stepped up, and the other city contributed as well, $7. So it's not just about contributions. It's about sincerity and being at the table, and then having some kind of board that's going to govern what happens with this county health department that runs it. I don't know who we don't know. We're going to get there.
Yes, we are.
Because
Yes.
it's serious.
Mr. McHugh?
So just a final thought. So I'm glad the conversation. I'm glad that Joanne will be at the table too with this culture.
Yeah, I misspoke actually. That meeting next week, the nonprofit for philanthropy has has been at the table for each of the conversations.
Yeah, funding as well, like, you know.
That's not right. That piece of philanthropy, talk to Cecilia about that.
Moving forward.
Yeah, they're at, if you just keep that in mind, there's the big clutch related conversation happening, and there's the Rock Island County conversation happening. And this is being driven by the fact that starting local, starting small can be more nimble than waiting for the whole region to get their act together. And I always tell people my example for why I prefer this at the moment while the other bigger conversation goes on is because we saw what it took just to fund Visit Quad Cities from all the entities in the area. It took way too long.
70 years.
And they still didn't get all the money that they needed, right? So they're doing incredible work without the funding that they actually need. And we need to, we just going nimble locally is my preferred pathway. But it's also, I just had a conversation today with Kyle Carter from downtown Davenport that was working on that pledge program, and that was a very good conversation. So just, I guess I'm glad you were able to give this report so we can continue to connect all these dots with the conversations, and I want to feel that I know what's going on.
Keep it going.
And I appreciate the context you providing and the skeptical of the ability to bring that together. I just ask that our staff and our administration keep us well appraised of that scenario, because if we come to that point where we have to continue to be, that I think we should. I believe a regional solution does make the most sense, but that has been said for many years. And I think there has been a lot more positive movement there, based on what I've heard and what I've spoken to with other entities involved, but not willing to take the step back just because that may not work out.
May I say something?
Yes.
Okay. So a couple of things, when you talked about numbers, I think I told Mayor, when Scott County did their research for the cost, and so when they're talking about building funding surrounding this, their top 17 utilizers in that county cost the county $17 million in 5 years. So we're talking 17 people costing the community a lot of money, $1 million per person for 5 years is vital. We ought to be able to do a better job than that by utilizing services that we already have in place. And then when we talk about the regional grants, I think we're all skeptical.
Yes.
Even those of us who are very involved, very heavily involved, and this is the work that we've been working on for I started, social services when I was 2, so I've been working on this for 20 years. No, but we are also skeptical. But what I remind us is the regional plan is supposed to be built on building supports around the things that are already working. So we're not looking at grand, big, new solutions. We are looking at working together. So if the city of Moline is doing what the city of Moline is doing, it is unnecessary for us to stop them in their tracks. It is important that we know what they're doing, learn best practices, so that maybe we find that there's a funding solution and a piece of plan that we could duplicate in another community, or maybe we find this didn't work, and so we can start fresh somewhere else. So when we talk about the big guy, the regional plan, it's important to remember that that is again an idea of moving together, but not together. We're still moving at our own pace. It's just that we have one goal in mind. And now instead of trying to recreate or restart the wheel 100 times, we know that there are certain organizations that are already really good at what they do and what they need is support. And then we know there are other cities that are already good at what they do. And so they just need to be kept abreast and being brought in as partners as part of the plan. So the region is not that big if we're breaking it down and all staying in our lanes and doing what we do best.
Thank you so much. All right, we'll move to 7.3, this discussion for purchase of property located at 1601 River Drive. The promised conversation from last week.
Thank you, Your Honor. And with us is Anthony Maselli. He is our financial advisor from Sphere Financial, and we have used him in the past for several different issues. At least since I have been here, and I know prior to that. And as we go through, we've got kind of 4 items we're going to discuss tonight. Anthony and I will be kind of working back and forth together to work our way through it. So just to get going, in conjunction with the purchase of the river station, the city does need to secure permanent financing to cover the cost of acquisition as well as the improvements to the property in an amount that we are estimating not to exceed $1,750,000. So tonight, like I said, I'd like to discuss, there's 4 main areas. Number 1, we're going to go through the draft of the bond issuance with you. So you've got local banks and some banks around the region. We're going to talk about the draft ordinance prepared by our outside bond counsel that is working in conjunction with our city attorney as well. I'll briefly run through the timeline. But before we get started, I would like to say that prior to the bonding, and we passed the resolution this last council meeting, we do plan to cash flow the purchase of the property from reserves from our special CI with the bonds, and Anthony is going to kind of explain how we're going to do these types of bonds. We anticipate to close on the bonds on or before July 29th, and that closing on the bonds will then reimburse the special CIP fund. And currently we have just under $3 million in our special CIP fund, so it is taking a good chunk of those dollars, but we do have adequate. We do need to have secure permanent financing because otherwise it would impact all of our plans for down on the river. But we're able to carry it here until we can get bonds issued. So the very first thing we're going to run through, and again, Anthony and I are going to kind of work back and forth. In your packets, we had a draft taxable bond issue, and I'd like you to turn to page 2 if you have that in front of you. And oh, they didn't. You just had it on the agenda. Okay, well, we'll
Sorry, I thought you were bringing.
Okay. And
Can everybody see one copy at least? Yeah, I'll share my copy.
okay, and I will certainly make this be available. And as we adopt the ordinance next week, first reading, everything will be in your packets. So I will just speak very, very broadly to that. So it's a typical bond run, like what we have seen in the past.
We're fine, go ahead.
Okay.
Sorry.
I've
We
seen it.
sound like we're spatting.
No, that's all right. But Bob, Barry, and I have been working with Anthony on this, and we actually reviewed 5 or 6 different bond issues, different terms, different scenarios, trying to find out what's the most flexible and the most financially feasible for the city. And what we have landed on is an issuance of $1,720,000 of taxable GO bonds, and we are because since we have for-profit tenants, the dentist that is in that, we have to have it be a taxable issue because we are receiving lease payments. We have structured it with a 15-year term, which may sound very, very long, but we have structured it with a 15-year term with level payments of principal and interest over that period of time, roughly at $150,000 a year. And our lease payments currently are $250,000 a year. So $150,000 in our required debt payments. We've come bringing in $250,000. We anticipate, Chris Parr had done a very lengthy look at what could our potential operating expenses be. And we anticipate those could be upwards of $100,000 a year. So the way we have structured this, if we would end up and hold the building, right now, if we're able to retain the tenants and the leases, there would be no projected out-of-pocket cost to the city
Over the life of the bond.
over the life of the bonds. Yes, so that was very important to us, and that's, Anthony really helped us kind of get to that point. The bonds that you will see next week, they do have a 3-year call provision, meaning that they can be paid in full or refinanced at any time following the 3 years. And it's important to point out that if we would happen to sell the building prior to the call provision, we would simply hold those proceeds in an escrow. We would invest them and then wait until the bonds are called and then we would pay them off. And so you don't have it in front of you, but if you look at the total interest that we project on those bonds, it does total up for those 3 years to be about $182,000. Most of that would go away with potential investment income that we would be receiving during that time.
And Carol, can I jump in really quickly?
Yes.
Just to let everybody know, we actually have it right now structured a 2-year call on that. I have it. Yep.
That's
So we're trying to get away with a 2028 call provision.
That's good.
It
Thank
does, I'm saying it's a little over 2, so I was saying 3. Yes, thank you, Anthony. It is, and which is wonderful. And that's the flexibility we want, so that we have the opportunity, if we, want to pay the bonds off or refinance, we have that option.
Carol, is that mechanism in place just to make sure investors, they're guaranteed some payout? Okay.
Absolutely.
Anthony. And that's, and that's part of it. Anthony's going to speak to that. That's part of the challenge as he's trying to place that, is to make it, look appealing for the banks to be bidding. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's exactly it. We're, the plan right now is we're trying to directly place this with a local or regional bank, and when you're looking at the types of investments that they want, we're on a little bit of the longer side, and so we're stressing the call provision a little bit. We just got to be careful in how, we don't want to put an immediate call on there, and then perhaps we don't get any interested banks. They say, well, I could do all of this work and give you these funds, and you can call me out in 30 days. It's not really worth the investment. So we're pushing it, I think, with the 2 years, but it's so far been received okay, and we've got a few people that seem like they're going to bid.
That's good.
Yes, thank you, Anthony. And then lastly, on the bond runs, we are anticipating a projected true interest cost on the bonds at about 5%, the taxable rate. That's pretty reasonable. And that's pretty much for the bond run. Do you have any questions for Anthony on
What's an unreasonable rate?
no? Well,
Where are we?
I'll let Anthony speak to that.
I could jump in, and that maybe is a segue into the next section, but so the bond ordinance, which will allow the issuance of the bonds, that's what's called a parameter style ordinance. So that will allow us to issue bonds so long as those bonds fit within certain parameters. One of those parameters is that the bonds will not have an interest rate above 6%. So if we do have an interest rate, if we do get bids and it is above 6%, we would need to come back to City Council and have another ordinance passed. So it'd be a discussion at that time. There's a little bit of discovery here in terms of what the rate's going to be. 5% was the estimate that I had come up with looking at some other transactions in the market, but it's a little bit different with the short call and the term length. You don't see a lot of direct placements with these exact terms, so it's a little bit of a guess. But again, we're capped at that 6 per the ordinance.
And then, I'm sorry, Mr. Schmidt.
This is going a little further from the core topic, but when we're estimating against our operating expenses, does that include any estimates we expect for repairs that will need to be included in the building? Obviously some always come up, but
The answer is yes, but don't let Chris.
No, Carol, I was just gonna say that, so part of this original financing is allocated for the expenses that we want to engage. So even when talking to the tenants, we do know some of the repairs and latent defect items that need to be addressed. As those, so this financing and accounts for being able to hit those right out of the gate, take care of it, so we don't have to include those as tenant allowances. and we can let it run straight.
And the property tax obligations should include as well.
Thank you.
So whatever we lease, we have to pay property tax on, but we don't lease, we don't pay property.
Continue, please. And since we kind of led into the ordinance, we'll come back to the term sheet. And Anthony, if you kind of want to talk, I'll kind of lead it off here. The ordinance, as prepared by our bond counsel, it's pretty straightforward, standard language, but there are a couple of sections that Anthony and I would kind of like to touch on. Section 3C as well as Section 12. Section 3C is the authorization of bonds. Anthony, if you want to kind of take the lead.
Absolutely. So again, this is a parameter style ordinance, so it allows the city to move forward with the bond sale after city council action to approve the ordinance, so long as the bonds fit within the parameters set by the ordinance. And then that authority would rest with the mayor or the finance director or Carol if delegated by the mayor. So that's how that authority would be granted to move forward with the sale. And then again, the parameters specific to the bonds are then listed in the ordinance. That authority doesn't last forever. It only lasts, I believe, through, I have it circled here, but through the end of this year or next year, really. So it's not
I think it's through 2027.
27.
Yeah, that's what it is, 27. The other thing is, we have tax levies because these are general obligation bonds. There's a section in here that will discuss the tax levy on the bonds. Now, it's common practice for rural municipalities to issue general obligation bonds, and in situations like this, abate that tax levy. So although there's discussion in there of a tax levy, the plan would be to abate that, similar to other city bond issues that have additional, an outside revenue source.
And the key outside revenue source again would be those lease payments. So any questions on the ordinance? We'll have the first reading is going to come back to you on the 23rd, and we can have further discussion if need be. So any more questions on the ordinance? Nope. Then I'm going to have Anthony just kind of quickly take us through the term sheet that he's going to be distributing to banks.
Yep, absolutely. The term sheet is relatively straightforward. It just lists the expected repayment, principal repayment for the bonds, the security for the bonds being a general obligation, a brief description of the purchase and the tax status of the bonds. So you can think about this as a really pared down version of a preliminary official statement that you might put together when you're doing your traditional bond issue. It's pared down because we are directly soliciting banks, and you just don't need the same amount of disclosures that you do in a transaction like this. But the key deliverables are the specific terms that you're asking for with regards to repayment. When interest is due, our optional redemption provision, which is that December 2028 date that we're trying to push for. And then we do just attach the city's latest audited financial statements to that, so they can essentially, the banks can do their own credit review. We do these pretty regularly, and they're pretty widely accepted by banks. Occasionally we will get, after we distribute these, we will get some banks that reach out for additional information, and then we put that together and send it over. Maybe a tax collection history or top taxpayers. That has happened at times, and we have a good dialogue with the bidders, so they can get that information timely.
Okay, and then lastly, just to give you kind of a heads up on the timing. So again, on June 23rd, we would have the adoption of the first reading of the bond ordinance. Then on the very next day, June 24th, Anthony and Spear will plan to finalize to local banks and various banks throughout the region. Bank bids will be received on July 14th. And on July 14th, we will finalize the sizing of the bond issue as well as award the bonds, unless we need to come back to council. But if the funds were within the parameters, we'll just move forward. And then we anticipate closing on or sweet turnaround.
Mr. Macias?
Between now and then, when do the rates get out? Or do we just have to wait till that date?
I'll let Anthony.
Rates will be, yep, the rates will be locked when we receive the bank bids. So those will be firm bids we receive. And that's expected July 14th.
Anything further? All right, thank you so much for all the information. Thank you, Mr. Maselli.
Thank you, Anthony.
Very welcome.
We'll see you again.
See you, everybody.
Means we can move to our final topic of the evening, ordinance update discussions. I know I had encouraged everyone to bring their thoughts and ahead of time, if you could share anything with the council that you needed to. We got some of those at your place. It's section 4-3304 Class C package sales only. If you recall, some of you in 2021 in the fall, we inserted a requirement that Class Cs could not be less than 100 feet from each other. And that was to prevent the density of the same type of store. I'm aware, and Mr. Macias is aware of a business that's having a really hard time selling right downtown on 19th Street, a gas station, because it no longer has the ability to have a liquor license. And that's because it's less than 100 feet from the same store. I am debating how we can stop being in the way of commerce and the improvement of that spot. The reason they don't have a liquor license is because they lost their food license because they had some major violations. And then when you lose that, you lose your liquor license. And then we have this in place, and so they can't get that, so it's not selling. The property's not selling, it's for sale. I'm wondering if there's a way the council feels about creating an exception for gas stations, because if you think about it, every gas station just about that I'm aware of has a liquor license. They're selling liquor at the gas station. It is not quite the same package sales as it is for the central store. Package sales. Does that make sense? And I wondered what your thoughts were, given the context of that business. And Mr. Macias, I know I didn't talk to you about this ahead of time. I'm curious if you wanted to add anything.
Sure. I did meet with the owner, and that's when I learned of that rule. But it's a gas station in downtown Moline. And I used to go to it way back in the day when they were open, before a lot of people would. You have the Claire apartments, we have more people who come live there with the dispatch apartments. Just to simply have a gas station that can also make money selling beer, it would be good for that area. In fact, when I was there, a lady stopped by who was running out of gas, and she asked them where the next gas station was, and she ended up coming back to thank them because she was close to running out of gas. And so that just proved like there's a need for a gas station, and I would be willing to make an exception for this rule, or like you said, get out of the way. And I also think there's a difference between the two businesses. The central store is it's almost like very unique craft beer, stuff that you're not going to get at this gas station. So I think we can make the case that while it is liquor, they have their own clients.
Yeah, I was gonna say the way that I'm envisioning it, of course, our legal counsel will have to massage it if we get a sense of our thumbs up kind of the system about this idea. Is we could just say make an exception, like except in the case of gas station, however the wording is.
Yeah, I could word it so that it would only apply in the case of at least one of the businesses being a gas station.
There you go. It's that I'm yes.
I think as far as downtown is concerned, exception can be made since this is not the neighborhood. So instead of a particular case, I think in general we can accept the fact that exception would be, open for downtown. When we say business center, basically downtown.
That's understood, thank you. It is a little different than what I'm proposing, so you can debate it if it comes back to council. Because, I mean, what I'm saying is every gas station, just about, I mean, our clerks can tell us, they all sell liquor. And so we have to make an exception for that type of business within this thing versus, that's my suggestion for staff to bring back an ordinance update, as opposed to just for this one. Because it's in downtown, but I hear what you're saying. What's your opinion?
My fear is that this becomes a precedent and then every gas station has a liquor store right next to it, which.
Oh, which destroys the density area.
Right. So what if we just allowed a variance system? And then they can come before the council and the council can vote on them individually. We could lift this distance requirement on a case by case basis. Is that within the realms of good legal thought?
It's gonna be a little bit riskier if you take that approach. Because if you say for gas stations, we're gonna take a different approach, then you're saying that that's only gonna apply in case of gas stations. If you have an undefined, when we think that it's appropriate, we can make an exception. That's not really giving criteria. And anytime you refuse someone, they're gonna say, yeah, you refuse me because I'm me and you don't like me. And they've got a class of one equal protection claim potentially. I think that actually was a gas station, the old case that they created the class of one legal protection. And,
Okay, thank you.
I'm supportive of expanding where we allow it. I think this is a great example where, but I think we would only want to let this exception apply to a gas station. Not even just if one of the businesses is a gas station, because that opens it up to the opening liquor store next to it. If there's a gas station or liquor store wants to be there, go find a different place. I'm more open to.
If there's a liquor store,
Gas station wants to come in next to a liquor store. I think they're different businesses, and part of our liquor and tobacco ordinances have always bothered me with like how that impacts to say a gas station, and how we think about the different kinds of businesses get lumped together. So,
and I could easily draft this so that it would only be for gas stations wanting to go in next to some other business, and it would not apply for another business wanting to go in next to a gas station.
Okay, take a few more comments.
Thank you. Well, I would make no claim to be an expert at gas station economies, but I did hear recently that you actually don't make any money off of the gas, you make money on what you sell inside. So with this argument, I would say it absolutely makes sense to allow it in a gas station, so I'd be support of the ordinance that's in that.
So I'm piggybacking off of that. I've seen a number of gas stations close. Selling gas is not there, and they make all their money off convenience. So we need to make sure that this isn't some backdoor into, well, I already have my license. And so I think that we need to keep that in mind. And I don't want 6 gas stations opening up next to each other with one pump. I mean, listen, people do crazy stuff, right? If we give them a way in, there's a lot of money to go in. I know it's not likely, but what is a gas station?
Oh. All right, well, we can have further debate when Phil can bring something back and put it on. Okay, all right, so who has another idea they want to share? We've got 2 formal ideas shared with us, or 2 or 3. Mr. Timmy and Mr. McNeil?
Yeah, do you want me to go first? Or you want to go first?
I want to.
You go first.
Gas stations list.
I think I need easier discussion. So I do not, this is really maybe in lieu of an ordinance, met with city staff, maybe it was a year ago, I think we started the conversation around allowing Moline residents to have data
vegetation in their yards. In support of the city, work on the pollinator conservation committee, knowing that we're working on a lot of these initiatives, and just really briefly for context, understanding lawns versus native vegetation, the history of lawns there came from England. Folks that had wealthy estates had lawns, and we envied that, so we got them here. Beneficial as far as managing stormwater or habitat or a lot of things where native vegetation really is in so many ways. It's like encouraging habitat stormwater. So we're going to have our lawns. I'm not suggesting that we buy lawnmowers from folks' hands. I'm suggesting if someone wants to have a functional landscape, that we allow and encourage that. And we thought that the best route would be, instead of changing an ordinance, of a voluntary program. We did discuss this with Pollinator Preservation Committee, and it was endorsed. I think it's a good idea. I think what we really tried to do was manage enforcement. If there are folks out there that have unruly yards, that sometimes include some native plants, and sometimes they include some noxious weeds. And what we would be asking is for residents to sign up for this program. We create guidelines for the program. So we look at setbacks, we look at plant height, all of these requirements. So if you are in the program, then it is allowed. But if you're not in the program, you're still subject to enforcement under our current ordinance. So, Chris, you can provide any feedback, but we go ahead.
So the city of Davenport has a similar program like this. I don't know the exact name. One of the elements is they put an actual sign out there, right? So people know they're part of the program. We would be able to take these locations, we could put them into our GIS system so we know where they are. I think, Brad obviously has concerns about this at first until he realizes, we wouldn't be changing the ordinances, and we'd have a way, I think, we'd carve these complaints off from something that's going to be for Brad. And the more I've learned with talking about native plants, we have some other initiatives with native plants right now, like requiring that in our landscaping code. We have other people at the city that know about native plants as well. So we even have folks in our streets department that know about these things that's coming to talk to me about it. So I like the idea in terms of, you don't have to change any ordinances when you have a debate about lawns and all these things. You can kind of just carve out something where city staff already knows that exists. And if we don't know it exists, right, then they are subject to our ordinances and they'll get, have the same kind of mowing complaints that we deal with now.
Yeah, and we would project that anyone that takes the time to sign up for the program, where there would be an education element to, is that they would be good stewards. And in the case they are not, but what I guess enforcement or management we think would not be too challenging. I think even Eric was part of the discussion, possibly interns, because there are apps where you can go out and take a photo to see if something's planned or noxious weed. It's not challenging, but we would anticipate that residents take the time to want to be part of the program or go to students.
I want to compliment you on how you put this together for us to understand, and the least you thought about different aspects of the program, and also the research. I did call a mayor of Columbia, Missouri, who Chris knows I know, and we've referred to her work before. I called her just this afternoon, and I said, "How is Como Wild Yards going? Like, do you have any big problems with it?" She's like, "No, that's involved with other parts of the initiative for it." So I think it can be something positive. We've had residents come to us wanting to be able to plant more native plants in their yard, and we didn't have any way to accommodate that person. So I personally think that we're on the right track if this council's interested in having something formal brought forward to adopt.
Yes. So are the plans purchased by the residents, or is there grant money?
Well, there's no plans today that would Well, plans today would be for residents to purchase the plans. If the program could, in some cities and counties, have a cost share. If you wanted to put in a 500 square foot named garden, then the city could opt to pay for 30% of the plants. That's often grant funded. I think Rock Island Soil and Water has done it in the past. I'm not sure Chris was referring to native roots adaptable, but that's not uncommon. And I did talk to Dawn. I know that the River Advisory Council, they grant municipalities. And so it's like, my only concern is, writing the grant, and you do a cost share for 2 years, and here's the money. So, but that is.
Yes, Mr. Sires.
When you're saying that people have come to the city to like say they're running into like a limitation, is it because they're trying to put it in the front yard? What is the what barrier are they running into?
That's even what we're talking.
Could be.
Was a front yard.
Because like zoning wise, is that we're running into like enforcement actions? It's like if it's visible in someone's front yard, is what we're talking about, and that would like mostly be what would be curbed by some program like this.
Yes, and I think we've also had some that have obstructed views, maybe in alleys, like 8 foot tall plants, or, so we would be creating guidelines.
We need to be prescriptive about it.
Yeah.
Because right now there's no rules.
Sure.
And it does lead to problems with code enforcement. Kind of have it all cut down. Find out it's because it gets really upset. Other residents happy because they call them in and we fill requests to take them out. True. Yeah. So
I'm just curious when people are seeking and what we're like allowing by doing this.
Yeah, and I think one of the cases that maybe Bob's referring to is, I would see maybe Brad going out on that call and the president saying, well, these are native plants. And then city works with them, well, I need you to sign up for this program. So you're part of it. And if you're not in the program, then I believe at this point, our discussion here, hoping to enforce what's further.
Mr. Jimmy.
So I like throwing setbacks in there because of the visibility, especially around corners and some of the narrow alleyways. My concern is that we set the guidelines, they might be ignored, they might be not strictly adhered to, then we come back later and ask them to move it, or we cut it. People power to get that done. And I'm trying to avoid that kind of.
I'm not going to speak to Chris now, but I think we have confidence that we can build this out the way. And it's like, I know you do a couple of these programs too, where you can have the homeowners submit a site.
Okay.
Right. You can have them, and there's just a lot of different ways. So you can post a photo to our, okay, and show us where you're going to put the plants. And like I said, I think those that take a handful of steps to participate in the program. I can't promise they'll all be good stewards, but I think that's part of it is having them commit to signing off, sharing.
I like it. Chris has used the phrase finding a way to yes. I feel like this is an example of the city trying to do that for those in the community that really do want to do it that way in their own property. Anything further? It sounds like sort of this idea that staff can operationalize it for us to pass it. Okay. All right, other ideas from the council? Mr. Timmy,
I'll take it.
yes.
Oh, you're gonna go with Bill? So the email I sent you, the 3 ideas are very connected. And the end result is we need commercial in neighborhoods. And commercial can be a number of things. That can be grocery stores, it can be restaurants, it can be barbershops, it can be, any number of things. Imagine what used to be in confectionery, just all sorts of stuff. And it's no secret that I'm not a big fan of exclusionary zoning. And what we're seeing here is the result of exclusionary zoning. We allow one type of business. One type of building in single family residential it was heard that, and we fixed this a few years ago, that there is a gas station 100 feet from me that is a house. It is zoned as a house because it used to be a gas station, but it's in a single family. I'm not advocating for gas stations in neighborhoods, but we have buildings that they're purpose built. We recently said, hey, there was a duplex once before, we should allow it to always be a duplex. It doesn't default to single family. And I feel that way as well for some of these purpose-built buildings. But the bigger discussion is, do we want commercial, bars, restaurants, all sorts of different things in neighborhoods? The benefits of this are, a lot of us here want walkable neighborhoods. If there's nothing to walk to, people don't walk. When people walk in neighborhoods to parks, to stores, to restaurants, crime actually goes down. There are plenty of studies. Yards get taken care of. People take care of their houses. A lot of the degradation of neighborhoods is as a result of the fact that we go from our garage to work to the grocery store. We never interact with our people. And so I'm advocating that we find a way to restore what Moline once had. And here's some proposals. The obvious one is neighborhood corner stores, which I've kind of talked about at length. I'm happy to show you a Google Drive folder I have of all of the old neighborhood stores that used to be in Moline. Most of the buildings are still there, but they are now just apartments or houses.
Apartments mostly.
Yeah, there's a few that have turned into like an upholstery shop or something like that. But for the most part, they've been converted into residential, and that's fine. But
Because
we need residential, but the point is these things used to exist. It's a part of the fabric of Moline. And so that's one idea. The other idea is a little bit more conventional, but it has been done before, which is called an accessory commercial unit. Just like an accessory dwelling unit, you can build a separate accessory building on your property, which you're allowed to do now, and store things in. But I'm advocating that why don't we allow you to sell things? Yeah, set up a business on your property if you want. Imagine when I lived overseas, it was very common to have a front porch store where you could sell things from your front porch, live in the back. It's probably not going to be a super popular thing that people will want to do, but I'm saying that we should allow for it, determine if there's a demand. And then, of course, I kind of want to stop there before we go to number 3 because it's separate.
Yeah, I was thinking Dot Spots comes to mind. I live there and a whole lot of Flora's store. So like in some ways we already allow it. I have a sense that some of these two are probably zoning, like in our comprehensive plan update, like that can come back then.
Right.
Because they're so unique and have repercussions or consequence, right? That the conversation through the comprehensive plan is probably where I see this coming back.
Right. My hope is to get some support now
I
so that
understand.
when we get to that conversation. Alvaro, what was that in Carmen's jewelry?
There's a building that was a store and it was some single family. So, but because it was vacant over a year, they basically lost the ability to be grandfathered in. In the Florida neighborhood and the second ward, you see these buildings just about everywhere. My only thing is the reality of the Walmarts, the corridor that exists, the shopping centers, and also online shopping and DoorDash. I love going to Mr. Fresh. Those are great. But I just think the market probably dictates this for what we can expect or we can go ahead. But
And maybe not just the market, but the neighborhood, right? That like in your ward, you have these examples. In Jessica's or Anna's, not going to be the same kind of situation. But there is one related thing with these growing ordinances that also have to do with selling that maybe Mr. Mathias could update us on at this time because it's similar. But because it's it's more ag related, to land versus a building, it could be dealt with not in the comprehensive plan, but separate.
If I could discuss the market,
Okay.
and I might not, you might be right, 100%. But what I can tell you is that these stores have gone away because of our zoning and ordinance, as well as market forces. Targets and Walmarts and venture on the Ben Franklin's and the mom and pop shops. We also said you can't come back in our zoning code. The exceptions are those who have stuck it out, like Jerry.
I would add, not
Yes.
everywhere, not just in Moline, but whether it's African, Indian, or the Mexican stores that are around. Or a lot of people, but because I don't know that we have a desert or any food deserts here in Moline, but a lot of times people oversee those stores because they're ethnic. People that's like Julas or whatever, but and they're a little more expensive, but we still have more than what people really think. It's just we're not as used to going to go through.
I would just argue if we are discussing market forces, we need to take our hand off the scale and allow the market to do what it's going to do. Because right now we have just completely prevented these kinds of businesses.
I think I would be in favor of partially bringing them back. I'm not sure I want to open it up and say, put it everywhere. Like it's by right, any single place. And whether that's a restriction on the type of business you could put on your residential lot, right? Because that could solve that if it's, preventing those business styles that would make it more disruptive. Or whether it's saying do it in some zones and not others. I think as we go to hopefully multiple residential zoning types, I think that allows us to say where it works in certain neighborhoods versus where it doesn't. So there's opportunities there. I'm not opposed to the ideas. I just think some people.
I hear what you're saying. And my feeling is that cities grow and change and adapt based on the needs of the people. And when we saran wrap it, we prevent growth. And a lot of times what zoning code becomes is that taxidermy form of preservation, where this works and we're just going to keep it like it is. And we don't allow for that natural growth to happen to find out how things are going to be. And I think that Wildwood is going to have a grocery store open up inside. But if they want to, who might stop?
As that conversation continues, I would want Mr. Carr's economic lens on it, right? I would like to see an entrepreneur who's actually wanting this to happen because, we knew about ADUs, we knew people wanted ADUs. Do we know that people want this kind of opportunity in the same way?
I know that about a year ago, Jennifer said that CED regularly gets requests about opening businesses in neighborhoods. And now she told me daily, I don't know if that's accurate, but
She's right there.
I was looking over here for you. Jennifer, is this something that happens?
We do it occasionally, definitely not daily.
So I mean, there is interest, right?
Okay. Do you want to complement this with the growing discussion? Because we did have this talk about.
Just a couple things too, because Moline can vouch for this. Like we had a great comp plan meeting this week with the consultant where these very things were discussed, kind of like how keep in mind at the end of this you're going to get a plan that recommends certain neighborhoods for certain uses, right, and certain elements. So if we're talking about businesses and neighborhoods, we're not going to get a plan that says zone all your, zone it to these particular zoning districts. It's not going to do that. It's going to be future land use. It's going to be talking about these things, identifying neighborhoods where these would work, where the gaps, right? So we are talking about that, and I think we had a good discussion on it. But as far as the garden concept, I keep wanting to call it like urban gardening or residence. It's not that, right? We're really talking about people being able to garden where they live, which is already allowed in the code. Cultivation is allowed. Now, what we identified as we get into it is there's a 20% limit. So you can only like 20% of your lot for gardening. I think that's that's probably something we gotta look at. May or may disagree with this, but it doesn't allow it in like the required front yard. And so that's something we need to look at too, would be like, if we start to allow people to sell, we know that's not allowed, or we know that's not allowed right now. But if we did start to allow people to say, grow their own food and sell it in a residential area, what are the limits that we want to put on that? And that's where,
That's what the group is.
right, and so we did have some people indicate, hey, I'd love to be able to sell right out of my front yard and have like a, I want a refrigerator in my front yard
Oh,
to be able to sell certain things, right? So like, we have to sort that out as zoning and kind of come back to the recommendations. But one thing I would say is, talk to Lincoln, Nebraska, they have what's called a conditional use permit. So that means, just like we did ADUs, it's very similar to how we did ADUs. It's like, check these off and you can go do it. They don't have anybody come back to them though and tell them if they did it or not. I think that's something we have for ADUs was like, come to us, tell us about it so we can know where they are and if the program's actually happening. There's a few things Lincoln did, like they didn't require a soil test. I think with our industrial history, we should require some kind of soil test, and we should work with our partners to try and maybe support the cost of it. But yeah, anyway, the main thing we would need is to change the code to allow the sales component in a residential area. That's something that we're gonna have a memo on by the end of the week.
Yeah, by the end of this week, and that is brought to us, this concern by a Moline resident. Who owns her house and has a business, it's cottage industry business type stuff, right? And also some nonprofit partners that have community gardens, right? And they see the hunger data, they see the people that they're addressing, like they're addressing access and affordability. And so it's all and entrepreneurship, it's all wrapped up together. That was it. I'm looking forward to your memo, but now you all know that that's coming and it's complementary to what you're talking about. So in some ways, maybe we try this as a separate thing because we know it's going to impact right away in a growing season. And then we get to the bigger, another step.
And we will be proposing some barriers, right? And I would just ask you to kind of like, we'll have that discussion about what's appropriate, right? So we may have some things on there that you want to take some barriers off. We may have some that you want to add back in. So that'll be coming, and we look forward to the discussion.
And I think that this kind of dovetails into the next conversation, which is municipal grocery stores. The basic idea is we notice that there are food deserts or there are neighborhoods that don't have access to food. And I'm not even going to say fresh food or healthy food because I'm just saying food. I did attend the webinar this morning for the Mayor's Innovation, and it was the same woman that we met in DC, Andrea Bautista. But we heard from cities, Chicago, New York, and Atlanta that have started municipal grocery stores. And these are much larger cities, and I understand that. It came about because they first approached all of the local grocers and said, hey, we'll give you a building, we'll give you land, no property tax, we're going to subsidize all your losses for 5 years. And they all said no, because they are more concerned about big profit margins than smaller, which is the same reason people build in Iowa, not Illinois, until River's Edge. But what they ended up putting out an RFP, and they found partners that were willing to do this. So it became a quasi-private public partnership. And part of the deal was they did remove all property taxes from the lots because it is a public good. And so there's a lot of conversations that have to happen about supply chain and how to make it more affordable so that food can be lower price for the neighborhoods that definitely need it. Which is why I'm thinking there is a component where we can partner with local growers to sell food at, it's like a farmer's market, but more, established, and then there's always the
more
safety.
brick and mortar than just a farm.
Right, exactly. More brick and mortar. There's a market up in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. It's a tradition, but it's basically the acknowledgement that when the private market fails to step forward and fix a need, then I feel the city government obligation to do something about that. And I think about my own neighborhood, a number of apartment buildings, and not a lot of food options nearby, affordable food options. We used to have an Aldi, now it's a dispensary. So there's not, they have to walk to Hy-Vee, which is about a mile away. That's quite the burden. I think of the intersection way out there. Sure, there's a Walmart kind of close, but there's no sidewalks. And so a lot of the places where we have the most density has the least amount of food. You think about all of downtown.
Yeah.
I mean, there's Central Store. But, and so like, we can think about these areas that we have heat maps for food deserts in the city. It's just the idea that the city either directly runs it or we put out an RFQ and we find a partner that's gonna run it with assistance, with parameters.
Yeah, there are things that are happening at Tapestry Farms, things that are happening at Palomares. There's a number of groups we could partner with. I personally need an economic lens shared with me on the benefits and detractions for both a municipal grocery store and some sort of co-op, because I don't know, Melina, if you were able to hear the conversation from the woman that represented the Kresge Foundation at our fellowship, but she brought up that part of Detroit's turnaround was due to a lot of this city planning and design work that they did, and one of the things that they sponsored was a Black woman-owned cooperative grocery store, right? And they did that because they went to the Whole Foods and different grocery stores and said, we need you in this neighborhood, and they wouldn't build there, right? And so then they asked the people in the neighborhood, what would you buy if there was a grocery store here? And so then that co-op specializes in what those people will eat, and they're doing great. They're still in existence. So I hear what you're saying. I did find a post today from the organization No Labels. Doesn't say that it's nonpartisan, doesn't say that it's bipartisan, but they were not supportive of municipal grocery stores, and they had a couple different reasons why. I want to digest that a little bit more, but just in terms of reading a naysayer, right? To balance it with the pro municipal grocery stores. But I personally want to understand what could a co-op thing get us, because that is something that I've thought about for a portion of the Just City project in the East End, versus municipal grocery store.
But, and I think about, I mentioned a few neighborhoods. I think about where we have the Vanch property.
Yeah.
All those streets, all those houses on that Fifth Avenue down there, they're all multi-unit. Every single house. It is a highly dense area with a lot of people with less means that are not going to track up to Hy-Vee all the time, or they're right there. And so like there's ample opportunities on the East End. There are a number of buildings too that could really benefit. I would again caution us to, as we digest and think about this and hopefully read some of these links, we shouldn't be motivated by profit as much as service. You know, how much profit does the swimming pool bring, or the library, or the roads? If we are filling a need that the private market refuses to, then obviously we don't want to like lose making neighborhoods better and more resilient as a result. So I think that's really important. On this panel today, they all want to be self-sustaining, and I think that is a good goal. But they gave it 5 or 6 years, because there is a long runway for people to start changing habits and adapting. We need to think about it if this is something that we're interested in. Other thoughts.
Yeah, just your mentioned the cooperative grocery stores. They're basically just like credit unions. You get your board of directors, you get people from the community, and they're volunteering and they choose. But there is an element of you got to have some financing to get a building, fix it up, and you also got to hire somebody who knows how to basically run the grocery store than staff. So it's a business, it's an enterprise, but then the profits get pumped back into it. And it's owned by the people in the neighborhood.
Right.
So in my opinion, if it's, that's what you want, because it's not the city dictating or maybe working with it, but it's the folks who decide, hey, we have this need, or it's a financial desert. But we can certainly, I think, facilitate and help with that too. So again, they're cooperatives, just like in my industry, and I do have a contact with somebody at the National Cooperative Bank that basically works with, if that's of interest, I can facilitate a call.
And I do know there are state funds. I don't know if that program's still there.
The Pritzker program.
Right. And
$23.
it was largely geared towards co-ops.
Yeah.
And they did open a store in Cairo, I believe.
Cairo.
I'm sorry.
We don't pronounce things.
Cairo.
I'm from Moline, Illinois.
Cairo.
Okay, so further discussion, I'm hearing the council say, they're curious enough to need some information added to the long list of things that we asked you guys to look into. Anything? Yes, Mr. Chairman.
I've got one that I think is an old one that has gone. I'm not sure where it falls on the ordinance standpoint, but it's kind of it's gone on and off, and I think it might be time to revisit to see what the next steps may be. And that's thinking back around our objective of a one-stop shop and making it easier for people coming in, I mean, developers and big businesses as well as just the average citizen. I just now that we have moved everything and we have the software solutions in place, I'd be curious at us taking that look to see, are there changes we need to make? Continue down that path of making it easier or solidifying anything from a process standpoint.
Or is the website meant to do a lot of pulling it together or no?
I mean, the website is constantly being reviewed now as opposed to, so that the information there is up to date, it's useful, and it's easier to access. So that project is done, but it's always being reviewed, right? The one-stop shop just got opened. The software system just went in place after a year of development. So we don't even have the data yet to know how many online applications have we been, monthly even.
I mean, one of the things we're doing, just so you know, is like we're now testing the system. We just put as we told you about the development review process we're working on,
Right?
Kind of get it all on paper, like how this works, and looking at some ways to do it differently as far as development. So
to streamline our development review process.
And maybe what all of them.
I think that is
a little bit more of an update. It is
the next
happening because, like you said, it's been a development process. I mean,
Jennifer is working with David right now to test, is the system working the way it's supposed to back and forth? So it's literally that happened the last couple of weeks.
No, and it may be the night to bring it up.
No, it's good though.
It's good to, reminder that that's one way.
Thank you. Anything? Yes, I see your hand, and we're about to move to public comment, so you can come up to the podium and share your name, and you have 3 minutes. That's the rules for public comment.
Sorry, I don't have a big fancy PowerPoint to show. I'll pass this around so everybody can take a look at it.
Your name, sir?
Name is Wayne Blank. I am a 52-year resident of the city of Moline. I live in what started out as Melody Moline, Melody Park First Edition that morphed in 1960, that morphed into Maple Lane South Edition in August of '63, which consists of 47 lots. 47 lot development on 47th Street between 46th Avenue on the north and 49th Avenue on the south. And why I would like to talk today is about the resident across the street from me having this concrete poured in the dugout and then poured in next to the driveway in his front yard. I saw this going on Thursday, May 14th, and I called down, talked to somebody down, and apparently Sean Foley came out and asked that the would stop putting work on it because he said that he would need a variance because of zoning issues. And that, I was thanking him for doing that because they were going to move on it all quick because, I pretty much think that once it put golf carts on, my neighborhood is trying to kind of turn into a golf cart sort of area. But what would happen if you decided to use it for recreational use or motorhome or something? Well, in the original covenants for the property, it states that no building or permanent structure of any kind, exclusive of curbs, sidewalks, driveways, or fences, shall be built or erected on any part of the lot, post subdivision, which is right between the building line and the street. Okay, now those are covenants. I know they're not enforceable by the city, but you know when he said that it might have something to do with needing a variance to get it done, well, I thought maybe it might not have. Well, on Sunday, I sent a email that Saturday morning on the 13th, about 10 minutes ago, I saw a truck pull up in front of the residence, and two individuals came out with motorized carts, wheelbarrows, and a cement truck, and started pouring cement. Well, I didn't know that anything had changed because I had not been notified of any request for variance change. Now, yesterday I got a call from this person's Moline boss saying that he had been in touch with the property and that he felt that the way Mr. Foley interpreted it was not correct and that it would not stand with the person who wanted to take it from work about it. And all I said was is that if something needs to be more clarified in the ordinance or whatever it is, clear that about what can and can't be done with something like that.
Thank you. I'm so sorry that we just have to be equitable with everyone's public comment, but for sure, your issue could be referred to Mr. Mathias and Mr. Atkins, our legal counsel, so
Yeah,
they can
but I
get in touch with you.
Yeah, well, I just thought I'd come out and say something about it, because, parking will be, next thing you know, there's a motor park spot, you want to have that, you talk about having gardens. Well, I'd rather see a garden in my yard and see somebody motor park.
Thank you very much. We'll make
Thank you
sure,
for your
our
time.
staff will make sure they talk to you.
Thank you.
Yep. Any further public comment in the audience? Oh, yeah, Chris, do you want to?
Well, I have to.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Miscellaneous business. I have nothing. Where are we, Mr. Silence?
Oh, nothing, thanks.
Nothing. Nothing.
No, thank you.
Staff?
Not this evening.
Oh, KJ has some.
Yeah, just a quick thing. I'm gonna send you out a save the date. We have scheduled a volunteer appreciation picnic. It's gonna be at the library garden again on September 19th. So send you guys out information on that.
It's too early.
Too early? We're planners in CD.
It'll be here before you know it. Yes.
I believe next week is new city meet, and I think there is a bunch of events almost every day.
They just posted them on their Facebook page. So. Any other staff? Your office is almost ready, I see.
Oh, finance will be in,
This week. Yeah.
full-time, no turning back, Monday morning next
Got
week.
it. All right. There's no executive session, so I need a motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn, a second.
Second.
Bench and Schmidt, all in favor?
I mean,